This is a big story on the continent today. Nigerians head to the polls in what promises to be a closely contested and historic presidential election. President Muhammadu Buhari is leaving office after 2 terms. For more on this story, let's bring in SABC News correspondent Ajeck Mangut, who is covering the elections. Ajeck, good morning to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Give us what the atmosphere certainly is looking and feeling like in Nigeria this morning, and what we're expecting of the race.
Yes, indeed. We're at one of the polling units in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and voting here has been delayed or was delayed for almost an hour, but it started just a few minutes ago. Many people are on the queue here waiting to cast their ballots in what is expected to be a very tight race between 3 top presidential candidates. But apart from the presidential elections, Nigerians are also going to be voting for members of the National Assembly, that's the House of Representatives, and of course the Senate. Voting is expected to take place across over 176,000 polling units across the country. The process is expected to last for about 6 hours. Nigerians are, anxiously waiting, looking forward to voting in President Muhammadu Buhari's successor, who would come in and help to address some of the current challenges that the country is currently facing, insecurity and, of course, economic challenges. We've had cash crunch, in the country in the past few weeks, where many Nigerians have been unable to access their cash due to a policy by the central bank to swap old notes for new notes. And so these are some of the key concerns coming into the election, but many people are looking forward to the exercise.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the issue of the swapping of the Naira notes, and a lot of analysts having been concerned that is going to be a big factor that affects the numbers of voter turnout. But talk to us about particularly what voter turnout is looking like so far, because we know it is still quite early in the day. And then perhaps let's talk about some of the key candidates running.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part, please?
Well, I was saying, so the first part is around how the changing of banknotes has affected the voter turnout, if at all. You have frustrated electorates, members of the electorate that have not come out to vote. And then talk to us about the candidates in the race.
Well, the turnout has been quite impressive, especially in this particular polling unit. We're told that some of the presidential candidates have come out to cast their votes. I'm aware that the candidate for the main opposition party, that's Ajeck, has already cast his ballot. And of course, many people are turning out despite the challenges that the country is facing. Many people are determined to come out and vote in this particular election. Many of the candidates during the campaign have been promising economic reforms. They're promising to end insecurity. And so, the turnout has been quite impressive, at least at the polling units where we are.
Yeah. And talk to us about the candidates. I know that there's been a lot of talk around Peter Obi certainly is one of the front runners in the race.
Yes, indeed. He is the candidate that is known as the third force, because in previous elections we've seen where mainly the ruling party and the opposition party are the key contenders in the election. But in this particular election, we've seen the candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, who has been supported by the youth or young voters who make up the majority of this year's registered voters. And many believe that it's going to be a tight contest, and there's even talk that if there's no clear winner, there could be a runoff election in 3 weeks if there's no clear winner. And the winner is expected to score at least 25% of the votes in about 2/3 of the 36 states of Nigeria. And so many are watching to see how this all turns out.
Yeah, I'm keen to hear the campaign ticket that some of the candidates really are running on. So some of the key promises that stand out that have been made by the candidates in the run-up to this election, Ajeck, those that stand out for you.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So what are some of the promises that have been made by the candidates that are running for the role of president of Nigeria? So some of the key candidates, what are the messages that they've been sharing to the electorate in the run-up to this election?
Well, there are about 18 presidential candidates, and many of them have been promising to, carry out economic reforms to end insecurity in Nigeria. We've had more than a decade-long insurgency in the northeastern part of the country, and of course, the activities of armed groups in the northwest and north central parts of the country, where armed groups, carry out attacks, killing and kidnapping people for ransom, and so many of them are saying that that will be one of the one of their priorities if they win this particular election. And another key thing is the fact that Nigeria is an import-dependent country where we import a lot of the things that we eat and we need. And so many of them are saying that they would move Nigeria to become an industrial nation where there's a lot of production and manufacturing going on, not just enough for the country, but also for exports. There's also talks about ending fuel subsidies sometime this year, because Nigeria spent billions of dollars subsidizing petrol, and it also imports this petrol for Nigerians. And so these are some of the promises that some of the candidates have been telling Nigerians during their campaigns and in the lead up to this election.
Well, one thing we can be sure of is that the world is watching this election closely. Ajeck, thank you so much for that update, and I know you'll keep us updated as well as that story continues.